Welcome to Generation Orange. It's so great to have you. We're super excited to be here. This is the generation. I'm Adriana Sparks. I'm a student journalist at Northern Arizona University. I'd like to introduce you to who made me Generation Orange, my father, Les.
Hello.
We're
Great to be
yes, we're
here.
both from Arizona. Yeah,
Yep. Both started out in Phoenix and we both left Phoenix.
yeah. So I guess just for the first time's sake, it's probably important because obviously the majority of these podcasts are coming straight from Denver, which is awesome. And so there, maybe the elephant in the room is like, who are these, dudes from Arizona? What's the deal? So, Dad, if you
Right.
could tell them a little bit about how you became a Broncos fan, that'd be cool.
Right. So yeah, when I was a kid and getting into football, growing up in Southern Arizona, we didn't have a team here in Arizona, right? The Cardinals weren't here yet, uh, thankfully, because probably would have adopted them. But so yeah, and so the Broncos were on TV a lot, and there was a few players from U of A that were on the Broncos, Vance Johnson, Ricky Hunley, Randy Robbins. Had went to U of A, which was the closest to college where I grew up. So just kind of and of course when I watched him and saw John Elway playing, I was like, all right. So I
Right.
just kind of I was hooked. And they beat the Raiders the first time I saw them beat the Raiders. Anyway, so it just goes from there. And yeah, super grateful because when you're a kid, right? We just pick whatever team, the local team, but yeah, I didn't end up with the Cardinals, didn't end up with the Bengals. Or I mean, the Broncos have been really good, and they a great organization, right? And so yeah, and then I can't say that it was like my devious plan or anything, but you came along and you just kind of followed suit,
I
I
did
guess.
choice. Yeah. I mean, that's just what I always knew. My earliest memories. It's kind of
Hmm.
interesting because, you have memories of really finding them and choosing them. And that's awesome. And but for me, I feel like they've just always, it's never even crossed my mind to consider
Right,
being.
like you don't remember a life without the Broncos.
No, never. I never. I've always been looking forward to the next season, or they've always been such a big part of our lives. Like the earliest, happiest memories that I think I have are of the Broncos. I remember the Tim Tebow days and a lot of those games
Right.
very well. And I remember a lot of the early Peyton Manning days, and obviously you and I traveling to San
Hmm.
Francisco in 2015. Like those are formative bits for me. So that's kind of what makes this generation orange. Like they say, you're those that fan base right there, they bleed orange. That's seriously. I think that's kind of literal
Right.
for you and I.
Yeah, I think we defined that. But we're from Arizona, right? We were
Right.
we may not be from there, although we spent a lot of time there, and I know your grandparents live up there, so you get up there about once a
Of
year, I would
course.
say, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
but you know what? We've talked about this before, but a lot of people would argue that Arizona and even New Mexico, that's Broncos country.
right.
That's still
Yeah.
Broncos country. We are not the only people in Arizona who are big Broncos
No.
fans.
And we've been to those games in Las Vegas. That's Broncos country
Yep.
too, pretty
Oh
much,
yeah. Even sometimes in LA, man, they represent
Yep.
very well. And that's
Yep.
everywhere, but we're just doing
Yep.
our duty from the 602.
For sure. For
So,
sure.
yeah. So the AFC West looks pretty spicy. As you guys know,
Right.
today the Chiefs went down to Sao Paulo for their season opener against the Chargers. And yeah, I think Broncos country has plenty to smile about, personally, I think, when watching this one. But we have a lot to talk about. So at first, Dad, I wanna get your thoughts, just immediate reaction. We're filming this, it's been about an hour probably since things kind of wrapped up. Give me the themes. What's sticking out for you?
Uh, um, I can't get over that boneheaded play by Marion Hampton at the end of the half.
Of
You know,
course.
you can't go out of bounds there. But Mahomes gonna get at least a field goal he just guaranteed gonna get
Right.
that field goal with 45 seconds. That's what he does, right? So that was bad. It's just kind of sticking with me, but by and large, yeah, a good game. Both teams, they kind of I they just were what I kind of expected. they're tough AFC West teams. The Chargers came out firing. God, how many did they run the ball like 5 times the whole game?
I don't know.
10?
That was something that I was going to ask you about later on, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot. But man, Herbert was just on fire today.
Yeah, he played well. He did. And the game plan, right? They just threw the ball. It
Yep.
worked.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, from the Chiefs end, I thought it was very typical of what we have seen from them the last couple of years, where they're kind of trying to keep it close to the vest and making those plays when they have to, and um, stay hanging around. But when the Chargers went up by 11, right? They made it a
Right.
two-score game. It was just kind of too, you know, that well, and yet if Herbert doesn't make that run at the end, the Chiefs do get another possession. So it was a close game. So basically, what we've seen from the Chiefs, except they didn't pull it out, right?
Right.
They the other team put them away for once.
Right. I agree with you completely. And, I hate the Chiefs just as much as the next guy as a Broncos fan. But
Right.
it comes to a point, and you and I have discussed this in large and in length, where they are the Chiefs until they aren't. And you gotta just crown them, and there has to be an expectation that you can never rule them out, really. But I
Yeah.
agree with you because, and I remember last season, especially when it seemed like the Chiefs were underperforming or they were just below the bar
Right.
in a lot of different
And
categories, might I add.
yeah.
And
And there were
everybody
folks
was
dancing
so
on the
quick to
grave.
say,
Yep.
yes, exactly. And hey, I understand it. I really do.
Well,
But
you want
when
to.
you
You
really,
want,
you want to, yeah. But when you
yeah.
really look at it from a football standpoint, it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, they're still winning those games. How many
Yeah.
times did we hear all of these games that they've won, X amount of games
I
last
know.
year they won within one possession? It doesn't matter.
All 15 of them. You know,
Yeah, all
yeah,
15.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because they were 15-1, right?
Right.
Because the game against us, we don't count that. That was I know they're 15-2, but they're 15-1. So
Hmm.
when you're 15-1, you don't tarnish that.
No,
There's not all, they're just not that impressive of a 15-1 team. No, that's just not, that doesn't mean anything. You're 15-1. That's huge.
yep, exactly.
How many teams have never been 15-1 in their existence? Probably most of
Exactly.
them, right?
Plenty.
You
Or
know,
at least
right.
within the last 2 decades, man. Especially
Yeah.
not necessarily in the AFC West.
The
And
Broncos have never been 15-1.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like we've talked about it a lot, but they're the Chiefs. And we've also talked about, and I think this would be important, we're not just going to talk about the Chiefs and the Chargers tonight. We're Broncos fans. There's always going to be a Broncos
Right.
connection here. And I want to talk just briefly about our conversations in the past having to do with, okay, who is really capable of decrowning the Chiefs? You can
Yeah,
watch, like we saw what happened in February when they went up against the Eagles. They were dominated. But
they
I mean,
were.
it comes to a point where you just don't even want to see them in the freaking AFC Championship ever again. You get so tired of these guys. But they always
Right.
end up there, right? Why is that? Well,
Yeah.
because the division has never even realistically been in question for them.
Right. You're
So
not
who's
kidding.
really capable of dethroning them? Tell me.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's us. It's got to be, right? I mean, and I say that because not only do I think that the Broncos are a team on the rise generally, but we've been watching this process. I mean, going back to the Fangio years, and even in the Hackett year, uh, we were we were making progress against the Chiefs. We were defending them extremely
Right,
well. We were
right.
losing games that we had opportunities to win, but it would be like a Darian or what was that receiver, that running back's name who kept fumbling?
Oh my gosh. Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon fumble here, or
Yep,
what?
I'm never
There's just
gonna forget that one. Of
and
course, last year
yes,
that was a little different.
and then so not only have we been a team that's been scrapping it up with the Chiefs when we weren't even that good of a team. Now we're becoming a good team, or we hope. Yeah, no. Although I gotta say, we can't. I'd love to carry on about how confident I am that the Broncos will do this. But what I mean, what about the Chargers? They just beat them,
Right.
okay, and
Yeah,
they
let's
swept us last year.
right. Let's talk about the Chargers for a little bit because I think there's actually a lot to say about this football team. One of the things that you mentioned, Dad, was that I don't know how many times they ran the ball. Maybe we can get, for future reference, maybe we should just have some stats available because, I mean, it was
Yeah,
just not a
right.
lot. And it's
It's
not even that they weren't necessarily having success there. It's just they were having
right.
so much success with the pass. Why would you
Yeah,
quit that? I mean,
yeah,
and of course we saw some signature, Justin Herbert moves where, he's just, it almost looks like he's a running back the way that he just marches down the field. Or it seems like the offensive line just creates plays that are specifically designed for a 10 or 15-yard quarterback rush. And I really appreciate that. But there is a part of me that's like, you know what, as nice as it is to see the Chiefs lose, uh, it's not
right.
necessarily the
Yeah,
greatest thing to see the Chargers looking that pristine against him either. I think you might
yeah.
agree that, especially in the first half, the Chargers were so obviously the better football team there.
Yeah, they really had the momentum. They had a good lead, not a dominant lead, but I mean, and again, I go back to the boneheaded not staying in bounds. They should have been gone into halftime with a ten
Sure,
point lead
right.
instead of a 7 point lead and losing the momentum, right? Uh, but yeah, they were controlling the line of scrimmage even though they're passing. Defensively, they were playing well, and Mahomey wasn't really getting his rhythm. So yeah, they did look better in the first half. I would agree. And then maybe the Chiefs. It was a football game in the second half. Um,
Right.
and
Well, a little bit more of what we're used to, maybe.
Yeah, and I think we also have to remember it because we saw. I mean, there was a number of drop passes. There was some. I mean, even Mahomes and Kelsey had a miscommunication there toward the end,
Right.
where
Right.
it's an easy touchdown, but Travis kind of stopped in the. He kind of stopped in the middle there. Um, so and we see this all. This is. I think there was a lot of week one stuff going on where the team isn't neither of the teams are they're not they got a lot to work on they're just the training camps aren't terribly daunting anymore, so these teams aren't really prepared like they will be in week 4 or 5 or 6. They're still ironing some things out, but by and
Yeah.
large it was
And go ahead.
but yeah, it was a divisional battle. It was a good divisional battle. Hard to say, who the best team is at this time. Like you said about the Chiefs. Hey, they're still the champs. They're still. This doesn't change that. I mean, it's one game, and a game where the whole game. Even though we're thinking, yeah, but not like we're excited to see the Chargers be good, but it seemed like they could. But then they did. It was still a game where the Chiefs, if Herbert doesn't make that play at the end, if
Right,
they
then
if
who
they
knows?
stop
It's
him,
really still up in the
yeah,
air.
right. So, um, yeah, I think they're both capable teams. We haven't talked about the Worthy injury though. That could be a big deal.
Yeah, let's
You
talk
know.
about that a little bit. I mean, it happened. The Chiefs actually had a really rough night, I feel like, when it came to injuries. But the Xavier Worthy one hit early. I think it
Right.
might have literally been third down. I mean, first drive of the game. I don't
Yeah, the
remember
third. I
exactly,
think
but
you're
it was
right.
early, and it was, man. It comes to a point where you watch enough football. No, you're not an athletic trainer. You can't diagnose. But you can tell
Right.
sometimes just by the
Yeah.
way that these guys are acting, the severity of the injury. And a lot of times you can at least get a good gauge. And not many times have I seen a young man put a towel over his head to hide how
Yeah.
upset he is as
Yeah.
he walks into
That.
the locker room week one,
Yeah. And when it
So,
does
and
happen,
then,
it's always bad.
right, it's always bad. And then we also see, it was before the half, maybe even before the end of the quarter, that the league ruled out Xavier Worthy as a
I
participant in the
think it
game.
was
And,
like
and
half.
that's
Yeah,
right,
they
and
never do
that's not
that.
even necessarily typical for a shoulder injury. Like, what could that be? So
Yeah,
that could be devastating, and maybe we could, I guess, check the pressers here, and I'm sure someone's asked about it, but realistically, we're not going to
yeah.
know for another few
So
days, but we can,
probably
we can,
Monday. Yeah.
right, and we can kind of gauge what we can do. We can gauge what we can gauge, and that's just kind of, what have we seen? Man, it was a hard hit, and
Yeah.
he looked just
Yeah.
really disappointed and
Pissed.
disgruntled out or pissed. That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. Right. That's not, if you're
Yeah.
a professional athlete in the NFL, that is not how you want your week one to go.
No.
But that's a substantial injury, especially when you're talking about, I mean, not to tie it back to the Broncos, but you're talking about the AFC West and who really are the top three, top four wide receivers there. This opens up some space, I
Right.
think, and of course you hope that the guy's healthy. That's always a horrible thing to witness, no matter who it is. But uh, you could think strategically too, or just in terms of depth, and that hurts the Chiefs.
Yeah, and especially when their other guy's out. He's suspended, right?
Yep.
I can't think of the name. You know who I'm talking about, though. Um,
Yes.
we have to get better on our names. Uh, but so yeah, because Worthy was their guy, and then it was Hollywood Brown. He had a drop, at least one drop early, but he caught some rhythm. He had a pretty good game when it's all said and done. But they,
Sure.
yeah, and even
But you
Kelsey and I.
notice that. Go ahead.
No, good. Well,
I was just
but
gonna say, and oh my
you
goodness,
go.
we're gonna get better
You,
at this. Don't worry. I
I
was just
know.
gonna build off about what you said. One of the things that the Chiefs have always done so well is dominate every single part of the field offensively. They can throw the ball as long as they like. They can throw it to Travis Kelsey at any time, basically. They've always been able to basically establish the run. But now you don't have Rashi Rice is his name, and you don't have
Rashi
Xavier
Rice,
Worthy,
right?
and
Yes,
Hollywood Brown only has a few touches. That changes everything. You know what I mean?
right.
When you're so used to being able to rely on everything, that is, I don't want to say that's your game plan, but you build your offense around your weapons, obviously, and now you have two of your best ones who are suddenly not there. So
Right.
that could have accounted for some of the mishaps that we saw on the Chiefs' offense. But you were going to tell
Yeah.
me something about Travis Kelsey.
Yeah. So it seemed like I want to say he caught a ball early in the game, the first or the second possession. He caught one, but then he was nowhere to be found until late in the game. He caught that one. It was a
Right.
great play design, great execution. I mean, makes you sick as a Chief hater, but
Sure.
all of a sudden, it seemed like the Chargers had just shut him down, and then he's just running free, right?
Yep.
On fourth and long, he's just running
It's
free deep, and it's
Yep, like we haven't seen that before.
right. But still, for the most part, the Chargers were doing a good job. So it is, yeah. Back to the Worthy thing, and we'll see about Travis. Hey, great play, but he he's not getting any younger. I heard that his off season was very productive. He worked really hard. He lost some weight, and was really super motivated after the Super Bowl. But we'll see. I mean, I think that jury's still out on what kind of player he's going to be this year. But we should
Sure.
expect him to be good. We should expect him to be at least pretty darn good. Um, but he may have to be because of the wide receiver situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so yeah, again, it kind of looks like the Chiefs of the last year or two, where they just don't have multiple big play guys on their offense, so they
Sure.
kind of have to scrap, and Mahomie has to make some, some shovel passes and some crazy Mahomie things to get some of the first downs. And I think we should talk about this. How many times did Mahomes run and then take a shot? I
Yes.
want
Absolutely. And there's a few Mahomes plays that I want to talk about, but Yeah, I think you're right. And another play that I really want to get your opinion on, and I'm really curious to see if we had the same thought about this. I think it was with about 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Um, it's third and long, I want to say 3rd and 8 for the Chiefs, and they're down by 7 points. And Mahomes makes that, it's a nice, sophisticated quarterback run, maybe
Uh-huh.
11, 15 yards. And it
Uh-huh.
really struck me when I saw that. And it's not, there's, obviously he was able to run for a while, but he ends up, in decent coverage. And it really struck me as these defenders are not pursuing this guy as aggressively as they typically would in that
Was it
situation. Do
was
you
it
recall the play that I'm talking about?
Was it the one where he ran it? It was a corner that got him, and Mahomes kind of knocked him, but he later put his shoulder in, and the cornerback got the worst of it.
Right. And then even afterward, Mahomes kind of puts his hands up and is taunting in a way. But man, it really
Yeah,
seems like that cornerback just kind of laid off or
maybe. Yeah,
didn't pursue as aggressively as he typically would because he
yeah,
knows. I mean,
yeah.
and I think anybody who knows a lot about or the Chiefs football, I don't want to say how the Chiefs play football, but the Chiefs football games in general, maybe has a little bit of PTSD when you see Mahomes kind of running free and here comes the
Especially
defender.
especially around the sideline, which was getting
Sure.
close to. Yeah, no, I
Exactly.
to answer your question, again, good question.
Good
I
question.
hadn't
It's a good question.
I hadn't considered that possibility. I it could have been because I know what you're saying. The defender runs up and he doesn't really lay into him. I wonder though, it was a one-on-one situation in the open field where Mahomes was still a couple yards from the sideline, so it could
Hmm.
have been that the defender just wanted to stay at home and not over pursue and get juked.
Sure.
You know,
Could
so
be.
that could have been what was going on there. Um, but yeah, and hey, I hate to do it, but credit my homie. He put his shoulder down there. He made it physical. That's the game. That's the way the game is played sometimes. And I don't know. I mean, it was just one of those plays, I guess. But you bring up an interesting point, and we'll see how it goes this season because it was getting crazy the end of last year when Mahomes would be there at the sidelines, feigning, overreact, acting like he's getting
Sure.
hurt, and
Flopping
yeah,
to the
flopping
mat.
like he's in basketball or something. I'm like,
Right.
and yeah, that was getting overplayed. And as much as I do respect Mahomes for his abilities and his competitiveness, I don't like that. I think it's to a point where it's like, come on, man, just play the game. You're gonna get your flags. You don't need to try to
Right.
get more flags. So,
Right.
but yeah, and I do think it'll be interesting to see how things get officiated on the sidelines, this year. And how Mahomes does. Is he gonna keep, trying to draw all those flags, or is he just kind of move on to the next play? We'll see.
Right. And obviously, you saw these, but there were some just very classic Mahomes plays that you see and I
Oh
mean,
my
you really got
God.
to put on your best Chris
How does
Collinsworth
he do
impression.
it?
How does
I
he
was
do it?
I was thinking of that like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. So got two or
You,
three of the shovel passes. The one
yep.
the one where it looks like he's gonna run for it and
He's
then he
like
just kind
belly
of
flopping.
underhands it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was
um,
just ridiculous. And you know what? How does he do it? You know,
how
I
does he do it?
realistically, we are so annoyed by it, but these things come from
No.
these things that we make
It,
fun of, they come from somewhere, and this is
It's
it.
what he does. It's what he does. It's all he
Yes, all
does.
he does.
No, and how
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
one where he's running and he goes way across the body and just fires a dart
yep.
to I mean, I don't know, but yeah, he's still Mahomes, and you have to
He's
account for him.
still Mahomes.
He reminds me a lot of Elway, to be honest with you, because and not and more so these last couple of years because uh, back in the Elway days, I mean, it was harder to put up the numbers, right? The quarterbacks didn't. If you threw like 25 touchdowns in a season and 3,000 yards, that was a good season. Right now, that's not even that good of a season. Anyway, so and Elway's numbers were typically lower than the quarterbacks, and so he had a lot of games where maybe he'd throw one touchdown and have like 210 yards or whatever. The stats would be like, yeah, whatever, but he would have those kind of plays that
Right.
only he makes, and
Hmm.
that would be why the Broncos won or why they were even in the game. And so I think a lot of the Mahomes haters, they just look at the numbers and but no, if you watch these games, that guy is amazing, and he just does Mahomes things, and that's like you said earlier in the show. That's just yeah. Andy Reid is great. Spagnuolo, Sean Jones. He's not the only guy, but he's the guy. He's the
Yeah.
biggest part of what they do. And it's not always ugly, but so what? It translates into W's. Not tonight,
Yep.
right? But but if
Very
not for
often it does.
right, and even to give an example, even if Joe Burrow, who I think is clearly the number two right now, I think he's excellent. But if Burrow is quarterbacking the Chiefs in this game, they're not
He
even
does
in
not
it.
have as much success. I agree
He's
with you.
yeah, they lose it by 2, 3 touchdowns or something. I mean, yeah, he's a special player as much as he drives us crazy. Anyway, can we
Yeah,
talk
I
about
agree
something
with
at the
you.
moment?
No, we
Uh,
can't actually, because I think at the end of the day, that really is my main takeaway here. Mahomes
right.
is the guy. And if you
Yeah.
aren't ready to accept it, get ready. The Chiefs we know it's the Chiefs. We've always known that it's the Chiefs. But no, I'm going to go a step further. It's not just the freaking Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think you bring up a really good comparison there with Joe Burrow, and that's exactly where my mind was going to, because last season you see Joe Burrow really outperform, and a team that wasn't supposed to make the playoffs is suddenly in the conversation for the AFC wildcard spot. And obviously we were in that conversation too, but I mean this was a team with, I think literally at many times were with a defense that was ranked number 30 or 31, and an
Right.
offense that just really, receivers that weren't getting anything going. And it was just really desolate wasteland, it looked like, for Joe Burrow. And like I just mentioned, he brings that team to a point in the season where they might actually be able to squeeze into a competitive playoff year.
Right.
So
Yeah, it was a
I and,
tremendous
and
season
and
for
there
him.
was, of course, and there was, because of that disparity, how good Joe Burrow was in comparison to how stagnant, frankly, his team was. He got a lot of credit for that, and I'm not saying it's undeserved. I'm just saying that we've seen Patrick Mahomes in so many different situations at this point. Early in his career, when they
Yeah.
didn't have that elite defense, we
Right.
saw what he was able to do. When he's out
Yeah.
of receivers, as he was today, we see what he's
Yes.
able to do. You see what he's able to do. I mean, I could just visualize now 3 or 4 plays today where Mahomes just has too much time in the pocket, and he's checking down, he's going down all his checkdowns, and he's looking through all his reads, and there is nothing open. And you know what he does? He still makes a play.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that I honestly do not think any other quarterback in the NFL has tied, in terms of
Yeah.
how they can really just, I mean, unless you want to talk about, Sir Tom and those days, but we're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
talking about that. And that's just what you have to accept. As long as Patrick Mahomes is in it, the Chiefs are in it. It really doesn't matter. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny. I'm just, one guy we haven't, and this is kind of, when we talked about doing the show, I was like, oh, it's going to be so easy. It's going to be so fun. It's like what we do anyway. But this, actually trying to talk about the Chiefs and the Chargers is a lot more challenging than I envisioned. I think it's going to get a lot
Right.
easier when we talk about the
When it's
Broncos.
the Broncos, because we could just carry on and on.
Yeah, everything. But so we haven't even talked about Bo Nix yet, right? And
Right.
we love Bo, right? We're believers to the core. But at the same time, when I think about how great he can be, and I think he can be amazing, yet I think maybe the best he'll be is like the second best quarterback in the league. And I hate to say
Yeah.
that, but it's just hard to
Yeah.
imagine him being better than Mahomes. Um, but we'll see. I mean, I hope to be proven wrong because Bo is special as well, and we've only begun to see what this kid's capable of. But we know how he's built. We know how hard he works. We know, what his priorities are. We know
Sure.
what kind of attitude he has, right? We know he's got
Right.
all the tools. So,
Right. And you see, like, really, you think about the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and a lot of them develop the traits about themselves that make themselves the greatest quarterbacks of all time over time, if that makes sense. Tom Brady
hmm
is the greatest of all time for so many reasons, but one of the main reasons is just his knowledge of the X's and the
oh
O's
yeah,
and the way that he understands, Peyton Manning comes to mind, of course, how he
yeah,
understands how to read a defense and how he understands every single formation that there is and he just has that football mind. And I'm not at all implying that Mahomes doesn't have that. I'm just saying you don't necessarily see that about these guys. Like if Bo's going to be that
yeah,
kind of guy, which I really truly hope to God he is, and it seems like he at least wants to be, that's something that the more Bo just experiences the standard of, which is, I agree with you, it's Patrick Mahomes. Well, it's a good thing that he plays him twice a year,
yeah. No,
you
no,
know?
good point. Um, yeah, and I got so here's a few names for you. We'll talk about the great quarterbacks, right? You said Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Joe Montana. Okay, you've heard of all those guys, right?
Of course.
Okay, they're literally like just four at the very, Tom, and then they're
Sure.
just like
You
all at
can
the,
hear an argument for any of them.
right. They're all in the conversation. Well, all four of those guys are not near the athlete of Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers,
Sure.
John Elway,
Right.
Dan Marino. I mean, the point is, Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a better athlete than any of those guys. He's
Right. And
taller. He's stronger.
exactly. And he's not even necessarily like a Mahomes kind of guy where you can
Right.
treat him like he's Lamar Jackson bumping around, running the ball like a
Right.
maniac.
The problem with Mahomes is he's got the same mentality as all those greats, and
But
he
he also
and
has this
that
ridiculous ability to do
that
insane
Gumby,
physical things.
yes, yes, and um, that's what makes him special. And now, but all things being equal, I would say that he isn't as good as those other guys. And I'm not, and he's still what? This is only his sixth or seventh year. Gosh, we just brought this back to Mahomes, but but
You hit our head rent free.
right. But I would not say that Mahomes is much of a systematical master as Brady, Manning, Breeze, Montana. Not that he isn't really good in that area and can't get to that point. I would not put him in that category quite yet, though.
Sure.
But
And
yeah, anyway.
we talk about something that makes Patrick Mahomes so successful, and the number one thing that comes to mind, of course, is his athletic ability, but also just the sheer amount of championships that he's been able to win in such a short
Oh my
time,
goodness.
really,
Right.
in such a short
Right.
career, right? But let's really break this down. In the state of the state that the division has been in for several years, and we touched on this briefly earlier, and this is how I'm going to tie a little bit back to the Broncos, is such that I can't necessarily recall a time where the Chiefs were very uncertain that they were going to win the division by week 13
Yeah.
or week 15. So,
Yeah.
and then from there, we already know how many times they've just been in the AFC Championship, or they're the first seed, and all of this stuff that just get. These are the things that really make them so annoying, right? Is how do they get it all? Okay, but when they're always the first seed and they're always the division winner, man, you only have to win 2 home games to make it to the big game.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna rebuke anything that I said about Patrick Mahomes.
No.
I believe that he's the greatest quarterback in the league, and he is absolutely on a first ballot Hall of Fame career track. You're
No
not gonna
idea.
convince me otherwise.
He could
I'm
retire
just
right now,
saying,
and that's what he is.
and first, exactly, that it's a
Yeah.
case closed in my opinion. And you take away
Yeah.
every single, oh, he's only good because of this, or he's only good because of
It
that. We've
doesn't.
taken it all
Yeah.
away, and we've seen what this guy does. So I'm not gonna hear any of those kind of arguments anymore. But when it comes to, like, especially, and I love Bo, but it takes a team to win a Super Bowl. And I
Right.
think that the more capable team is going to be the
Hmm.
team that doesn't necessarily rely on this, Superman-esque of a quarterback
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
get them out of trouble
Yeah.
or to light their fire.
Yes.
And if
I
what
know where you're
Sean
going.
Payton is planning for the Broncos, which is an
Yes.
entire system centered
Hmm.
around and maybe catapulted by Bo Nix, that's fine. But
Sure.
it's one of those things. It's like a check and a balance. Like one thing can't exist without the other. We're not going to get
Yes.
to the Super Bowl with just an elite defense. We're not going to get to the Super Bowl with just Bo Nix. It's all
Yes.
three phases of football on both sides of the ball, and that is what I think will separate maybe not necessarily Bo Nix from Patrick Mahomes,
No, no,
but
no.
the
Just the
Broncos
Broncos from
from
the Chiefs.
everybody else. Right.
Right. Yeah. That. Well, and the cool thing is, you know, from the Broncos perspective, it's like, okay, beat the Chiefs, win the division, which is what you should try to do anyway, right? When you're on a championship quest,
Sure.
that's the process, right? But if you're in the AFC West and you achieve that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, we beat the Chiefs. That not only you become AFC West champs, and you've not only done that, but you've surpassed the team that's been the team anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of like kill two birds with one stone. Now, don't get
Yep.
me wrong, the Chiefs could easily be a wild card team and be in the playoffs, and we might
Oh
have to beat
yeah.
them again or whatever.
Which
But
we would
but
love.
yeah, we'll take that. But yeah, you have a good point, and I think that's exactly why I have a lot of confidence that we're finally going to do it this year. Is that we've got guys, we have a very well balanced team, and we've been harassing Mahomes very, and the last I think I can confidently say the last 6 or even 8 games he's played against the Broncos, he didn't have fun, even in the ones he won.
Mm-hmm.
We've been defending him extremely well. We've been sacking him, hitting him, forcing him in interceptions. My goodness, how many interceptions did Justin Simmons get off of him? And he's been our team in a couple of
Right.
years, right? So
Right.
yeah, I think that is the way to do it with a 52-man roster. I mean, yeah, you got Mahomes, but well, we got these guys, and these guys, and that's why I think we have a shot. And I think Bo doesn't need to be Mahomes. He just needs to be
Nope.
the best version of Bo, and
Yep.
it should be fun to watch.
I agree with
So
you.
what are your thoughts about this game we have in a couple days against Tennessee?
Oh man. I mean, first of all, just excitement. This
Right.
has been an off season like no other. And I'm young. I'm 20 years old, so I feel like I really have strong memories of football, probably as early as like 10 or 11. And I would say I'm following it closely, in during the off season and of course during the regular season, maybe for the past 5 or 6 years since we won the Super Bowl, and or I guess 10 years now, right? Gosh, that's what why do I have to say that, right? But anyways, and I will say confidently that this is an off season unlike any other that we've experienced, and I have such great memories, and I will say that they're great even now, of being excited for Drew Lock and
Yeah.
of being excited for Russell Wilson. I remember getting that call. I
Sure.
was in
Oh
high
my
school,
goodness.
and that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
and watching Jerry Judy live tweet and being like, "Oh, we lit," and that man thinking like,
Right.
"Wow, we're in the
Yeah.
playoffs this
Let's
year." I mean, that was
go.
really the
Yeah.
mentality that we had,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
everyone's giving George
Unequivocally.
Payton his flowers. And
Hmm.
even then, I would say that is nothing compared to how this season feels, where we
Yeah.
have an expectation that we have not expected from this team for 10 years. And Bo is so exciting in such an other. It's really hard to describe, to be honest. But of course, any Broncos fan would understand. So this matchup on Saturday, I will just say plainly that I'm kind of carrying on there, but
No, no,
I'm
no. Carry
excited
on.
just to see it,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when it comes to the matchup itself, man, I feel you got to feel bad for Cam Ward here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of a time or of a game where because there's just kind of just some rules and nothing's for sure, right? I mean, there's nothing guaranteed, but it would be very surprising to me to see Cam have very much success at all in his first NFL game against, Joseph and company. I
Yep.
just that's just not a good matchup for the kid. I mean,
Yeah.
he'll learn. We saw what happened with our guy last year when we had to go to Seattle week 1, right? Good
Sure.
defense, but I don't think that's even close to what Cam has. I think our defense is better and more abusive upon quarterbacks than Seattle's, and I don't think. I think Bo was a little more NFL ready than most because he played more college, all that stuff. I just
Sure.
think, and I don't know a whole lot about Ward. I don't watch much college. From what I understand, he's drafted number one for the right reasons, and he's got a lot of talent, and he's got a good attitude, and um, but the NFL is the NFL, and
Right.
I'm not. That's not to say you can't come in there and make some plays, but to just go in there in mile high on the road, high altitude, raging fans. He just it it should be a trial by fire that will help him on his journey, but I don't think he'll be very successful. And I don't say that out of arrogance as a Bronco fan. I just say that as an NFL fan. I just think that
Yeah.
if he does, if he lights us up, hey, good job. What? But I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, I would be surprised, and I would also be very concerned, to be honest. I
Yeah.
think
Oh
that,
my goodness.
this
We.
game is actually going to tell us a lot, just as any game would. But week one against an opponent that, I mean, I'm just going to, we try to be humble, obviously, but we just also have to be realistic. We should beat this team. And I believe
Yeah.
that we should beat them very handedly. And to be honest, I think any result other than that it would, depending on what it is, would raise some concerns
Right.
with me because that is
Oh
really
yeah.
how I see this football team. And if we're a
Right.
football team that wants to be a serious contender, I mean, games like this, frankly, you just have to stomp on these guys. Um,
Yeah. And I'll do.
we'll be seeing our boy Lloyd Cushenberry.
Oh, is he with the Titans? Okay, I don't
He
remember
is
that. Good for him.
right.
And did you hear about the oh gosh, we don't talk about it. The guy, he's a defensive tackle, I think. I don't remember his name. But he kind of he kind of took a shot at Bo.
Hmm.
He was yeah, so they're interviewing him in his locker and they asked him I don't remember the question, and I'm not gonna get it word for word, but basically said the reason he doesn't take all those sacks is because he looks at the first read, and if he's not there, he just takes off.
Oh.
Uh, oh yeah, and I tell you what, I'm listening to this guy, and he said a couple other things, but that was the gist of it, and I'm like, my first thought is, well, why would you want to give but that's just kind of why do that? But then I thought about it. I'm like, maybe this is smart because the one thing I think we can say about Bo, and I don't want to say is a weakness, but it might kind of be with him still. And maybe I'm reaching here, but we know he's super talented, physically. But I think with Bo, like, there's just some mental things we saw when we saw him developing last year, right? And I think there was some mental barriers more than anything that he was working through, which all quarterbacks do. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to illustrate this, but I just kind of think maybe this guy was doing his homework on Bo, watching the film, and he's in the league. He's probably paid attention to him at least somewhat last year, and he just decided I'm going to get under this kid's skin.
Uh-huh.
Bo's got a little, Bo's a
Uh-huh.
little edgy. Bo's a little like he don't want, how he got in Sean's face, how he got in
Sure,
that
we
Raider
saw him
guy's
kind of
face.
griping on, yeah, I don't fear
Man,
nothing, and he's, yeah, sure.
yes, that's what so I'm thinking maybe this dude kind of saw that and said, I'm going to try to get under Bo's skin, maybe get him a little off. Yeah, I don't know. But, and hey, and I get it, if that's what he's trying to do. But I thought it was a little bit interesting. And I don't know why I brought that up. Maybe it just kind of came.
Well,
But anyway, due
I think
respect.
that's totally fine.
Yeah, and due respect to the Titans, we got to remember, hey, they've had an entire off season too, right? We've had teams
Sure.
that were really bad the year before. We know they're excited about their new quarterback. They're excited about all the other things they did. They expect to be better than they were last year, right? They're a proud organization. So them boys they're gonna be coming to Denver to try to win. So we can't just um, we have to understand it for what it is. I just it's one of them things with I don't see a scenario where they can unless they can just really grind it out. And if they can disrupt our offense, if our offense doesn't take care of business and only scores like 13 points or something, then yeah, maybe there's a way they can beat us. But I'm with you. This is about as close to a must win, if you will, that you can have week one, right?
Hmm.
It's just we can't afford to lose this one. That's it's
I
just
agree.
and I think the last 2 years, right, with the first 2 years with Sean as our coach, we last year was great because we made the playoffs, and if you recall, 2 years ago was exciting too because we literally got into the mix, right? We went on that winning
Uh-huh.
streak, and
Sure,
we went
sure.
to
At seven
Buffalo
and
and went,
six, and yeah.
yeah, and so, but both of those seasons we started out 0-2.
Hmm.
So imagine what we could do if we start out, 1-0. Well, then we go to Indy. Maybe we beat the Colts, and we're 2-0. It's a whole different season. I mean, that one year when we lost to the Raiders at home, and remember, and then we lost to Washington. That
Yep,
crazy play
that
with,
was a
like,
mess.
yeah, those teams weren't good teams.
And
We need to beat
there
those
were
teams.
very yes, and when we were sitting there at 7 and 6 with the other five teams in
Yes,
the AFC
those were
that were
just
7 and 6, we were thinking, man, I
yeah.
really wish we pulled
All
off that
right.
2 point
Wha-
conversion in
Yes.
Washington.
Why did
Yeah,
we let
I
them
remember
Raiders
that.
punk us? Yep,
Yes, I
exactly.
agree with you. And those are just
So,
those. But here's the thing: teams like the Chiefs don't lose those games, and they don't find
yes.
themselves in situations where they're 7 and 6 and having to scrapple and all this kind of stuff. But on Sunday, I think here's what I can expect. At the end of the day, this is a kid, a rookie, going up against the
Yeah,
defensive player of the year, right? Patrick Surtain
right.
and Nick Benito and Zach Allen and
Yeah.
Kufunga, and obviously
Jonathan
it's a
Cooper.
of course,
Yep.
and it's a big loss. We can talk about the Malcolm Roach situation, but
Yeah.
all in
Yeah.
all, and this is gonna this is will test our depth, I think, which will be good. But this is a
Hmm.
defense that I think really just won't let up, and I do feel confident in saying that. And the test for me is going to be, well, it's going to be offense. What can we see? How quickly can they establish the run? Can they maintain that? Are we going to
Hmm.
see Bo? Well, I think there are some things that I'm really looking for, and Bo and Ingram, that connection comes to mind immediately. I don't know
Right.
how many times over the last several years we've thought of, oh man, it's 3rd and 6. Wish we had a tight end that we could throw to.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a love, God bless him, but somebody
Oh
that
my
isn't Adam
God.
Troutman.
Yeah. Oh, did I tell? I think I saw Okawebo on the Raiders in the preseason. I don't know if he made the team, but remember, yeah, it was like who was it? Dulcich. We had so
Right,
many
and I
prospects,
miss
and
him. So many people that we wanted to
yeah,
work out. Yeah, Dulcich or Noah
yeah.
Fant and
Noah Fant.
Okwuegbunam. Yeah,
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 yeah.
that's a name you haven't heard in a long time. But
Now
that's been a
Ingram's the real
position
deal.
where, yes, that's been a position that we have really been lacking in, and it's always come up
Yeah,
in second and short or third and reasonable, and we've
yeah.
really come up short. And so I would love to see that get established. Of course, I honestly would like to see Bo throw in some really great deep balls, honestly, right out of the gate, because that was something that always annoyed me when it came to the naysayers or the non-Bo leavers, as I would like to call them. This
The
guy doesn't have an
non-bully.
arm. He can't.
Right,
He can't. He all he throws is check downs, right? Kind of like what
right.
I guess this guy on the Titans was saying. So I would like to see just a little bit of a, I don't want to say peacocking, but just we are,
Uh-huh.
this is a legitimate offense. And
Yeah,
there's been a
yeah,
lot of questions in our wide receiver room, but I think that can be shut down. So the tight end position and the running game, I think, are going to tell
yeah.
us a lot this Sunday.
Yeah, and I would urge a little patience with the running game. Now, having said that, I'm I'm hoping we're right out the gates looking better than we did for the most part last year. Um, but at the same time, you know, I, it's a work in progress. We have a rookie running back who's probably going to be we'll probably end up with the most carries when it's all said and done. I think Dobbins will probably start and maybe get more of the action the first few games potentially. Um, but again, and Dobbins is a guy who's still new to the team, and I don't know. I have and I know it's just preseason. It was just a few possessions. I just didn't see enough cohesion and effectiveness with our offensive line to make me confident that we're going to run the ball right down the Titans' throat. You know, um,
Right.
so and again, and then with Harvey, if Harvey's our main guy, he's going to have to learn pass pro. That's going to take time. So it's going to be interesting because I don't think we've talked about this, but McLaughlin added like 10 pounds. It looks like
Yeah,
he.
that's kind of stuff that gets overlooked if you're not kind of, I guess,
Hmm.
engaged in the sports world. But 10 pounds is a lot for a guy who's
Yeah,
probably pure muscle.
right. And he's only like 5'9", and I think
Right.
it was only like a buck 85 last year or something. So yeah, and he's third year in the system. We know, he knows how to hit the edge. He knows how to find the end zone. I mean, he's I think he's a guy that we can't forget about. I think he's going to
Hmm.
get 5 or 6 touches a game or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how they run the ball. I'm just kind of like I say. I think we should be able to control and win this Tennessee game. Um, and the Colts game as well, with just really good defense and serviceable offense. Um, I don't know that we're just going to run right through guys right away, and I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm
Hmm.
just kind of thinking that might take a few weeks. But I think that we have the pieces to get there, and we definitely, and assuming that Sean, decides to commit to it as well, that's part of it too. Um, and the
Sure.
game is it's just. I mean, you look at Harbaugh today, just shooting the lights out with Herbert. The last guy you would think would do that, but um,
Yeah, but yeah, not necessarily. And that's something that we could have talked about more, I guess. But Herbert does look, of course, he looks a lot better. And I think a lot of people anticipated this. But Brandon Staley is out, Harbaugh is in, and it
yeah,
really seems like Justin Herbert is being used as a quarterback the way that he was meant to be used. It's not like this talent just appeared out of nowhere. I
right,
would make the argument. I don't know if it was being properly fostered by Brandon Staley. And, there's a reason why he's not a head coach for the Chargers anymore.
right,
But for the Titans, actually this is going to be their head coach's first game, um, so they have some of those kind of off-season excitement.
right.
Brian Callahan is new,
Yes,
and but they have
yeah,
also some. I don't know a lot about the Titans, but I know that Derrick Henry is gone, and so I don't
yeah.
know if they're going to be able to rely as much on veterans like Tyler
Hmm.
Lockett is there, right? I don't know what that's going to look like for Cam Ward. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
you just it's man that's a tough situation to be in if you're Cam, and the Broncos really have just got to take care of business. I that's my take now,
Yeah,
and I think maybe we'll probably pick up on this when we begin next week's podcast after Sunday. Tune in, by the way. Uh,
right.
but that I'm saying it. This is on the record. I will be disappointed, truly, if it's a situation where we're still battling it out, late into the fourth quarter.
I agree. I think and it's just the mindset, the mentality that we have as fans, and it's warranted. We've seen, you talked about the excitement we had when we got Russ and all that. Well, there was reasons that was exciting, but this is more exciting, and we've seen this get built brick by brick over the last 3 seasons, and really even more so. You got to go back to getting Sertan and Bonino and some of those guys before Sean was here too, right? But no, this we feel how we feel for a reason. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's going to be a really tough show for us if
Yeah.
they lose, of course. And
Oh yeah.
but even if we're stressing it out in the fourth quarter, it's going to be disappointing, and that's okay, because that's this is the way it is. We just saw what the other teams are doing in our division, and I got to say, I'm kind of envious of the position that the Chargers are in, to be honest with you, because if we got, I don't know how many of the experts out there this last week or two have predicted the Broncos to dethrone the Chiefs, maybe a possible Super Bowl team. I know we've been talking about it for a while, but the Broncos are getting a lot of attention all of a sudden, and I kind of, like I say, I'm envious of where the Chargers are because they're not really getting that attention. But all they did was sweep us last year,
Right.
and finished higher than us, right, in the playoffs, and they just beat the Kings. So hats off to them. And like I said, hey, that's what we have to deal with. So if we think we can compete with either of those teams that we just
We're happy.
saw,
Yep.
yeah, but we need to we need to take care of business against the Tennessees of the world with a rookie
Oh
quarterback, right?
yes. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah,
um,
and you gotta win the game the way a good team would beat that other team. I think
right.
that's I heard all these you hear all these statistics like oh, Broncos are 1-5 against playoff teams or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, and those are they can get annoying sometimes, and sometimes I think
yeah,
you can argue them, of course, but there's some
but they're
truth to
real.
that. And if you
Yeah,
want to be I mean, hey,
yeah,
we round one of the playoffs, we saw how that went. We weren't ready.
yeah.
We weren't
We
that team
got
yet. And
we
if
were
we want to
quickly
beat that team, we're
dispatched.
gonna have to beat that team, right?
Yep.
So that's how I see it. I think we're probably gonna wrap things up pretty soon, so I want to make sure that we've covered all the grounds here. What am I missing?
I think we did pretty good. I mean, we broke down that game pretty well, and as it's kind of still settling in with me. Yeah, I think I just feel like I'm not. I mean, they're the Chiefs and the Chargers. I hate them. I got nothing but despise to their, or as far as because they're the enemy and all that, but nothing but respect at the same time. I mean, the Chiefs are the kings, and the Chargers had a really good game. Herbert played well. The
Against the
defense played
Kings.
well. Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with. Those are the guys we need to beat, and not forget. We can't forget about the Raiders either. They could be troublesome. They're going to be much
That's
improved,
true. I
right?
mean, and we'll talk
Yeah,
about that on Sunday, I'm sure as well.
yeah. All right, kiddo. Well, wow, this was fun. I will talk to you soon. Um,
Yeah, this
and
was tons of fun.
and all right.
Yeah, so let's do it. For listeners or for viewers, we're going to do this every week, or try our very best to. So we will see you guys a few hours after, hopefully, becoming 1-0 on Sunday evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Les and Adriana, and we are Generation Orange.
Out.